What's up, guys? It's Crash. We got some new information that just dropped for Gray Zone Warfare. I know a lot of us, including myself, are pretty excited for this game. While I don't think it's a ton of new information, I think it's a very, very vital information. I want to talk about the high points today in kind of a conversational type video. And what I mean by conversational is I'm going to give you guys my thoughts and opinions and break down some of this information. And I would love for the conversation part to be you guys let me know what you think down in the comments below, because this has the potential and everything we've seen so far to be one of my most anticipated games coming this year. And as it sets now, guys, we really aren't that far off. The early access target is still within the next 2 months, and that is Q1 of this year is what they've been saying and what they're still sticking to. So within the next 2 months, most of us should have hands on this game, and that's pretty exciting. So in the devlog today, I want to talk about the main thing, kind of the new marquee or title feature or thing that they brought out was some detailed information on some of the missions and how those are going to work. And I think missions inside of a PvEVP tactical survival shooter are incredibly important, because when you're talking about these extraction type shooters, the missions, the things you do, the reasons that you go in and take risks are incredibly important. And it's a lot of it is about progression and moving through and doing some of these quests. If they're boring, if they're repetitive, this happens in MMOs sometimes, even in Tarkov. That's one of the things that kind of pushed me away from Tarkov over the last couple wipes, is doing the same missions over and over every wipe. So I think these are pretty important to player retention, as well as, you know, just having fun and a big variety of them. And they really went in depth with this one mission. There's also some new images that I'm going to be playing in the background, so you guys can see there's some new really good looking screenshots. You guys can see in some of the images, if you look around, you can see maybe a briefcase that looks like some of the intel. You can also see in some of the dragging features of, you know, dragging a friendly away from danger to go ahead and help them heal. There's all kinds of stuff in this game that looks really exciting. And on top of that, you guys can tell that Unreal 5 is looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good so far in everything we've seen. But the big marquee thing, the big blockbuster thing that was revealed today was this this mission, and we got some details on it and a mission from the actual game. So I want to go over that mission with you and then talk to you guys about how they kind of presented it to us and what this could mean. The mission is from one of the, as you can see from the top, 6 traders, and it's called Rat's Nest, and here it goes. So here's the deal. It looks like some of those rats in town didn't get the memo and are still scurrying around and causing trouble. It's time to put a stop to their operations. Your mission is to conduct a thorough search of the town and its outskirts and identify the hideouts used by these punks. Keep your eyes peeled for any suspicious signs or markings that might help you uncover them. The main areas of interest are the town's northwest and southeast sections. Once you've identified the hideouts, investigate them directly. We want to gather as much information as possible before moving. Don't engage in direct confrontations unless absolutely necessary. Don't forget, your primary objectives are reconnaissance and gathering intelligence. And then it goes on to give you the actual task objectives by saying, retrieve intel from the hideout in the southeast part of town, gather intelligence from the hideout, and retrieve intel from the hideout in the northwest part of town and gather intelligence from the hideout. You can also see the rewards you get. It looks like, from what I can tell, some reputation with the trader, some experience points, and I think the one on the right, it looks like to be a backpack. Before we get into the mission, I do want to say, I think this UI looks pretty good. I know some games in the past have had trouble with UI and had to do changes and stuff like that. I think it looks pretty straightforward. I just wanted to comment on that. It looks clean. Like, you kind of have the big 4 features on top. You go back, you have your map, character, vendors, and then you have the 6 vendors, their tasks and trade are on the same tab. And it looks a lot like the Tarkov update that they just did, but these guys are coming out of the gate with kind of a lot more digestible looking UI. And so far from what I've seen, I just wanted to comment, because UI can also be an issue within games, that I think it looks pretty good, and it's starting to look good. So some of the other content they dropped with this devlog was an interview with an ex-Czech Special Forces soldier. They called him Spicy, or Andre is his real name. And they talked about some of these missions and how they would work out. And they actually went into depth on how he would approach this mission as a Special Forces soldier. And it got me to thinking on how we're going to actually approach missions in this game. And I hope they're pretty deep, because it kind of sounds like it. They talked about, you know, you're going to come in by helicopter, so you want to make sure that your LZ or your landing zone is far enough away to not be detected. You know, the game's kind of pointing you in the direction that you need to be quiet. But it was mentioned, if you want to play it loud and crazy and loot up and suit up and bring all your crazy stuff in and go loud, you can do that. But it sounds like the easiest, the best way to do this is going to want to kind of be covert. And they talked to the Special Forces soldier about, you know, kind of gearing up light, trying to be quiet, wanting kind of a smaller AR type platform, not a ton of armor, not carrying a ton of stuff with you. Maybe you want to have somebody, you know, carry some of the medic stuff, somebody carry some of the food stuff, kind of disperse the weight so you guys can move swiftly, so you can move quick, make sure your landing zone is far away. And I think that is really cool to start to break down some of these missions like that. I'm hoping a lot of the missions as you progress get more difficult, get harder, and you have to put this thought into it. Maybe you take a run, you get killed, you lose your stuff, you got to start over, you got to regroup, you got to try it again. But having these kind of things where they give you the intel, you can see kind of what the enemies look like. You kind of have to do your homework like you would if you were an actual PMC inside this kind of demilitarized zone, or kind of this anything goes gray zone that is within this game. So it's pretty cool. It looks like they give you intel on what the suspects look like, kind of a direction on where you're going to have to go, what you're going to have to look out for, and then you have to work with your team or by yourself and gear up light if you want to stay quiet, decide how you're going to approach a town, where you guys are going to land on the chopper, and how that stuff's going to work. So I think if they can keep the quest, if they can keep the missions like this, to where this sounds like one of the early on ones, and if you're already having to put this much kind of thought into it, I think that's a really cool way to go. I start to feel like the missions in kind of other games and extraction games in Tarkov, and I hope this one's different. I really do. We don't know for sure, but I really do. I hope they're different. I hope there's a variety to them, because I've always been a little bit skeptical with extraction shooters and replayability going into the future. But if you have these variety of missions and different ways to approach them, you know, going loud, going quiet, right time of day. They've talked about in some of the previous material about patterning your enemies if you have to do a hit on somebody, and kind of figuring out the right time to strike and how to get back to your base and all that stuff. It sounds really cool. And what they're doing over there, they're really putting thought into this, and I definitely commend them for that. And the communication that they've done with creators and like myself has been super, super cool, and I really appreciate that as well. One of the other things they touched on with this mission is how things can go wrong at any time, right? And that's one of the cool things about if you're playing on the PvP servers, is at any point in time, you could come across another group of PMCs that are against you, and you kind of have to be able to be fluid, think on your feet, stuff can go wrong. And I think that's when the crazy stuff can happen. You can see how tight your squad is, how good you guys are at communicating, and how well that you guys work together, because you can put all this planning, and this is just another variable, right? You put all this planning in how you're going to do the mission, your timing, where you're going to land, your routes you're going to take, how you're going to stay quiet, your light loadouts, but you're not taking into account you can run across another group of players and have to deal with that, potentially talk your way out of it with VoIP, work together, or just fight it out. Betrayal, all kinds of stuff could happen. Anything could literally happen. And that's what makes a game like this pretty exciting, especially with the realistic ballistics that I'm hoping that we hear about really soon. There's just a lot of that. And they go into that with the interview with Spicy as well. I believe they posted that, so you guys can check out the full interview if you want to. One of the other key things I did see from that interview that I wanted to point out is, I've noticed in the trailers, and a lot of other people have noticed this too, that the animations look really, really good. And we kind of got a sneak peek. They really didn't put it in the forefront of the video, but I noticed it. I want to play that for you guys. You can actually see that they're using real special forces soldiers, real PMCs as well, and they're motion capping them to get their animation. So that's why some of the animations look so good. They've looked so unique. It's because they're doing their homework. This doesn't seem like a shortcut, cut and paste from the UE5 store kind of game. They're actually doing the animations with motion capture from actual special forces soldiers. So what I think makes Tarkov really cool is the detail. And what I've seen so far in this game is they're focusing on detail. So when you have that, and you have kind of an open world sandbox, you have a variety of ways to approach missions, you start to see that this could be an extraction shooter that holds my interest. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping there's a lot of dynamic ways to play it. I hope a lot of unexpected things happen, and I hope there's a lot of immersive detail, because that's what they're going for, and that's what I've seen so far. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think of this game. I'm really hoping we get some ballistics information really soon, weapon systems and things like that. I've heard rumblings of that coming next. Really hopeful for. They mentioned that in the devlog. They said stay tuned for some information on their ballistic stuff, so I'm hoping that is what's next. And then, man, we are within 8 weeks, we should see the early access of this game where all of us can get our hands on it. So please stay tuned to the channel. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to Rick over at Madfinger Games for keeping us in the loop with all this awesome information. And if you made it this far in the video, you're incredible, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you on the next one.